Today we tell you about control of movements. You see, human beings are biped animals, biped in characteristics. And this biped means that a 6-foot human being is walking on 2 feet. That means the entire line of gravity must be passing within the area of 2 feet when both feet are on the ground, or on within the area of a single feet when the other feet is advancing. So this concept of line of gravity, and when can a thing be stable? Whenever this line of gravity, which is the sum of the forces of weight. So weight, line of gravity has to pass within the base for anything to be stable. Now this requires tremendous amount of balance to keep this line of gravity within the area of weight bearing by the feet. This is the basic area of physics that you must remember. But now we talk of the system that maintains this. That system is a reflex system. It is basically involuntary. That means it never enters your conscious. It doesn't take permission from your consciousness, it doesn't inform your consciousness, and is not subject to your will. So that is involuntary or reflex. Now, how does this reflex occur? Supposing this is a joint, and at present, it is at about 20 degrees of flexion. And at this 20 degrees of flexion, the extensors and the flexors are exerting equal power. Extensor power will be equal to flexor power. So this is stable in 20 degree of flexion. Now if I want to stabilize it in 90 degree of flexion, then this bone will come here at 90 degree, and the extensor and flexor tone must be equal at 90 degree of flexion. So this is equal at 20 degree of flexion. So this is what is the original, and this is what is intended. So as the flexor and extensor tone starts changing, the flexor tone would increase and extensor tone will decrease. The movement will be produced till at 90 degree of flexion the extensor and flexor tone equalizes. Now this miracle is brought about by something which is called as a stretch reflex. So the stretch reflex is that these are muscles has two types of fibers: the intrafusal fibers and the extrafusal fibers. So this is the intrafusal fiber. It has a nucleus and it has muscle fibers at both ends like this. And this is a extrafusal fiber, and these fibers keep on interlacing with each other till they connect the origin of the muscle to the insertion of the muscle. Now you would appreciate that in 90 degree of flexion, the extensor is much longer and flexors are much shorter than in 20 degree of flexion. Alright. So, now since this is a reflex, its afferent is an annulospiral ring here. And this annulospiral ring would go to the spinal cord. It will be connected by a bipolar neuron, that is the second neuron, and then it will come back by what is called as a gamma neuron to these intrafusal fibers. So, anything that stimulates this gamma neuron is called as the extrapyramidal system, which will help you achieve the 90 degree flexion of knee from 20 degree smoothly. So this is the control of this gamma neuron is extrapyramidal system. So just now imagine it's 20 degrees and the length of the muscle is between initial insertion to initial origin. This is the length of the muscle. Now you have to set this muscle in a different length, balance the tone in a different length. Okay, so what will happen? The extrapyramidal system will set it from 20 degrees to 90 degrees. So it will set from 20 to 90. And the gamma neurons will make this intrafusal fibers contract. These intrafusal fibers will contract and the distance between the annulospiral rings would increase. Now this distance, when this increases, these intrafusal fibers, these afferent neurons would excite the alpha neuron. And this alpha neuron would go to the extrafusal fibers. And these extrafusal fibers will start contracting. So as these fibers contract, origin comes nearer the insertion and the distance between the annulospiral ring is maintained. So the basic idea is that the distance between the annulospiral ring is now maintained at 90 degrees, not at 20 degrees. And therefore this extrapyramidal system has made your joint move from 20 degree to 90 degree. This reflex is called as the stretch reflex. Now we'll tell you how the extrapyramidal system is controlled by how this extrapyramidal system is controlled so that it can maintain the line of gravity within the base and you do not fall off in a bipedal gait. For this we have to draw our diagram of the cerebellum. So here is the corpus callosum, here is the septum lucidium, here is the fornix, here are the two thalamus, here is the caudate nucleus, between them is the lentiform nucleus, here is the cortex, here is the temporal lobe, the cortex of this side, the midbrain, the pons, the medulla. the medulla sends its own, this is the pedicle of the pons, cerebellar pedicle of the pons, which is connected to the cerebellum of the two sides. So the midbrain sends its own peduncle, the pons sends its own peduncle, and the medulla sends its own peduncle. So these three connect the cerebellum to the hindbrain, which consists of the midbrain, pons, and medulla oblongata. And of course, this would go to the spinal cord. Now, this cerebellum is the secretory of the cerebral cortex. So first of all, it must find the intention of the cortex. What does the cortex want? So it must find out the intended position. So for this, the tracts start from area 4S of the cortex, which is near the motor part of the cortex. They pass through the corna radiata, this is corna radiata, pass through the internal capsule, they pass through the midbrain, and then they pass through the pons, and then they go into the cerebellum. So these tracts are called as cortico-pontocerebellar. And of course they relay here, they relay in the pons. So this is the second order neuron which goes to the cerebellum. So with this, you have been able to find the intention of the cortex. You know what position does the cortex intend that joint to be at time t. Then it must find the present position. What is the present position? And at what rate it is changing? If you are moving, at what rate it is changing? For that, it gets information from the eye. You know, eye relays in the midbrain, the superior colliculus, and from there, through the superior cerebellar peduncle, the information comes. And these tracts are called as tectocerebellar. Then there are the semicircular canals on both sides of the ear, which tell you about the rate of head movement. And from here, the impulse goes into the pons, the vestibular nucleus of the which is in the pons, and that gives the information which is called as vestibulocerebellar. From the spinal cord, there are tracts which are called as spinocerebellar, and there are tracts which are called as posterior column, which is tracts of Gall and Burdach. Tracts of Gall and Burdach. So these are also called as fasciculus cuneatus and fasciculus gracilis. So spinocerebellar tracts, the posterior ones, would travel to the posterior column and will give information about muscle tone. The anterior spinocerebellar tracts will go up to the midbrain and reach the cerebellum of the opposite side. So they are anterior and posterior. The fasciculus cuneatus and fasciculus gracilis goes through the inferior cerebellar peduncles and gives the position of the joint and at what and rate of change of position. So spinocerebellar, anterior and posterior, and fasciculus cuneatus, fasciculus gracilis give the position of the muscle and joints, muscle tone and joint, so that the cortex come to know what is the present position, and at what rate it is changing. Now the cerebellum calculates the correction needed. This is the point, you had to go here, you are going here, so the cerebellum comes to know that at time t you will be here, not here, so it provides the corrective influence through the stretch reflex, so that this correction makes you reach at the correct position. So let us now understand how does the cerebellum do it in the shortest possible way. So the cerebellum is applying a formula. It is saying intended position must be equal to present position into rate of change plus correction. And this correction is conveyed by the extrapyramidal system. Now the extrapyramidal system has 4S, area 4S in the cortex, which coordinates with the voluntary system, the motor cortex. Then it has caudate nucleus, the basal ganglion, the caudate nucleus, lentiform nucleus, and if you stimulate the caudate nucleus, the stride of right will be more than the stride of left, and you will start turning towards the opposite side. So caudate nucleus is responsible for turn. Then there are subthalamic nucleus, which are responsible for forward progression and backward progression in a straight line. Then there are, in the midbrain, there is substantia nigra and red nucleus and reticular formation, which are responsible for the reflexes of movement. For example, antagonistic reflex, if flexor contracts, extensor must relax, extensor tone must decrease. So this coordination between extensor flexor reflexes is brought about by substantia nigra, red nucleus, reticular formation and vestibular nucleus. There is a motor part of vestibular nucleus also. And then there is the internuncial neuron system of the spinal cord, which is responsible for the flexor tone, and vestibular nucleus, which is responsible for the extensor tone. So all the time you are trying to balance the extensor and the flexor tones. So spinal cord flexor tone, vestibular nucleus, extensor tone, substantia nigra, ret nucleus, reticular formation, change of tone, subthalamic nucleus, forward progression, caudate nucleus turn, 4s coordinates with the opposite side. So this is the extrapyramidal system. And what do they control? They control the gamma neuron, which controls the stretch reflex. So I hope this is clear as to how posture, position, balance between muscles, movement occurs.